In this video, I'll show you everything you need to know to select, prepare, and submit your favorite Lorcana cards for grading at PSA using your local GameStop. Let's dive into it. So if you're looking to get your cards graded through PSA, then this video is for you. Why grade them? You know, everyone's got a number of reasons for why they grade them. Me personally, I like them protected in the slabs. It's just one other extra layer of protection. They do increase the value if they're graded a 10. Right now, grades getting 9s are basically the same price had you not have graded it. So I guess, in a sense, it's a gamble. I mean, you're paying $18.99 plus tax to have these cards graded. If it comes back an 8 or a 9, you spend 20 bucks. It's in a great case, but you didn't increase the value. So depending on what you're looking to get out of grading, it's really up to you. I like grading them just so they're safe in those slabs and I don't have to, I don't know. It makes me feel better knowing that they're encased in an extra layer of safety. So I'm gonna jump right in. Basically, you're gonna wanna start with what card do you want to grade? Whether you're looking for value or it's your favorite pull, it can be a number of reasons. I'm gonna go through a big stack of cards and show you exactly what you're looking for. If you're looking for that perfect 10, some things that may deter you from wanting to submit that. So let's just dive right into it. The first things you're gonna need, obviously, are your favorite Lorcana cards. So I've got a big stack here that I'll start going through. But as far as what you need in order to submit it, you're just going to need some penny loaders, just the little penny sleeves, penny loaders. Do not put pennies in these. Penny sleeves, so just the clear sleeves, not the exact fit ones. You need them to have a little bit of room on the top. So not the ones that are the exact same size as the card. And then semi-rigid number 1s. I tried using some of the other ones and it was an absolute nightmare to get the card in. So these are semi-rigid number 1. It even says grading submission size on it. I'll pop up some pictures of a couple other alternatives, like if you're trying to order off Amazon, but most card stores typically carry these products. So you should be able to find them fairly easily. I don't know, with the amount of people grading things lately and like the whole Pokemon craze, it might actually be kind of hard to find some of these. So hopefully you can find them. But again, I'll pop up links to other spots. So I'll just dive right in. I've got a decent stack and I tried to get some with multiples because I'm not going to submit 2 of the same card. Typically in the past, when you do that, one might get a 10, but the other one will usually get something less in my experience. Again, I am not the voice of grading or PSA. If you're curious on how to do it, then that's why I made this video. And it's exciting to kind of document all the cards I submit and then see how they come back. So I've got 2 Ursula. It was a set champ promo. And basically I'm gonna show you what I'm looking for when I'm looking at these cards. Corners, I usually start at the corners. So this one right out the gate, oh, come on, focus. You can see in the top corner over there, some whitening. And those are things that'll get you docked on your grade. So the first thing you want to look at is the back. You're going to make sure centering is a huge deal. So I'll get into some bad cards with bad centering, but basically the black gap on the side over here should match that over there on the bottom and the top. And this card's got pretty good centering. But I'll show you, like I said, I'll show you a card with some bad centering. So I'm just looking to make sure the centering's right, and then I go straight into the corners and start staring at those. One issue you see is the whitening in the corner. So it's little chips of card, some just quality control. So I'm just gonna look at this one. This one's got it in the bottom 2 corners, it looks like. There's whitening in both bottom corners. The tops look pretty good. And then on this card, I'm gonna do the same thing. Come on, focus. So this one has whitening in the top, but the bottom corners look pretty great. So just that tiny bit of whitening, which may have even been a fuzzy on the, it may have been a fuzzy on there. So I'm gonna pick this one over this one just because, you know, the whitening in multiple corners could raise an issue. This one seems to be pretty great shape. And another thing to check is the faces of them. Do you see like visible scratches, stuff like that? Everything that I get immediately goes into one of these and a top loader. I'm safety first, especially with a child in the house. I'm not taking any chances. So this Ursula is the one I'm going to submit. So it's already in the penny sleeve, and then I'm just gonna grab the bigger sleeve and carefully put that in, and you kind of squeeze the side so you can get it in there. And it looks a little barbaric because you're just pinching the heck out of the card. Just take your time and get it in, because what they're gonna do when they get it is usually they're gonna take scissors and cut the side of this and carefully remove it instead of diving in and attacking it. So one card done, that'll get submitted. And moving on, so again, I just wanted to compare a few of these, and then I'll speed it up because I'm sure nobody wants to sit here and watch. Unless you do, I don't know. So I've got 3 of these Kuzcos. The promo from the Anaheim last chance qualifier. And again, so I'm looking at the centering, and you can see like they all don't look terrible. Like the promo cards, I know the Stitch, the very first Stitch Rockstar Championship promo was pretty rough. So I'm just gonna take a look at the 4 corners. Like this one, I'm not seeing any whitening. The edges are nice and round. I don't see any issues with this card. Centering looks pretty darn good. I mean, this is probably my favorite out of the 3 right out the gate. I'll look at the other 2. Again, I don't see any whitening at the bottom. The centering looks great. Wow, I lucked out and got 3 really good cards. I honestly would submit all 3, but again, like I said, I'm paranoid about submitting multiples of the same card. So Kuzco, the first one was the winner as far as I'm concerned, and I'm just gonna slide him into this as well. And like I said, I just get it partially in, squeeze the sides gently. Yeah, the other ones I got were like almost direct fit, and I could just not get them in there for the life of me. So it's in. That is another card down. On to Baymax. So I've got 5 Baymax. I originally had 6, but I didn't get my Scar promo from Set Champs, and I was very upset. So I traded to give you an idea of some bad centering right now. So if you take a look at this card, you can see the gap over here. So see the line, here's your outline of your card and that little space for the dark. This side is a lot bigger. So I'll try and find one with some better centering so you can kind of see. Yeah, so you've got 2 options here. And it's really, really up to your naked eye. I can tell, I don't know, just from looking at it, I can tell the one in the back, the spacing there versus there, this one is definitely better centering. So I'm gonna put this in the do not submit pile and continue to look at these for just a second. But again, with these promos, I don't know, they did an excellent job with these promos. I'm not seeing any whitening in the corners like some of the Set Champs cards. I've got some other promos, some Mirabels we can get into and try and see. But again, yeah, like I said, that first one definitely had some centering issues. All 4 of these look wonderful, and I don't see any whitening. So I'm just gonna grab one of these guys and put him in the semi-rigid #1 sleeve. Yeah. It's so weird. Taking all of these out of the top loaders just stressed me out. Like moving these cards from one thing to another, I just don't like upsetting them and touching them. Like, and I do frequently just like go through them and just kind of admire all the work and remember all the stories attached to each one. So this is the Baymax I'm gonna submit. The centering looked great on the back. I don't see any white on the edges to be concerned about. Moving on, I've got a play set of Dragonfire from Seattle and the Anaheim DLCs. And again, I'm just gonna look at the back. So right out the gate, these back 2 look like they have, this back one looks like it has some of the best centering. And I'll give you something to compare it to. See how this one's way over to the left? Just that should give you a pretty good idea of what I'm talking about when I say centering. So like there's a huge dark open side on this end, and then it's pushed, basically the whole image is pushed over to the base, to the left, excuse me. I'm like nodding my head in wrong directions. So this one is out for contender for submitting, and I wanted to submit one of these because it was really cool. This was my first you get a promo for traveling to a DLC and playing. I still feel like this one's got some centering issues, so I'm just gonna narrow it down to these two, and I don't see any whitening on the edges of either of these. So the other thing is to look at the front. I do have some bad cards with like little tiny nicks or chips in them. So the fronts of these look amazing. Nothing of concern there. So then back to the back. And I think this one's got some centering over to the right, and this probably looks like my best winner. And when I say to the right, ever so slightly, like putting them above each other. Yeah, so I'm gonna move this one out and submit this one. And I'm gonna be very curious, like if something comes back a 9, I will definitely compare it to some of the other cards I didn't submit, because I'm gonna be hanging on to all of these. And it'll be fun to do a round 2 of this and send cards back out again and see if something that I didn't think was going to be a 10 comes back a 10, or how that all works. I really feel sometimes like it's whatever employee you got that day looking at your cards, if they had a good day or not. I don't know. Some of them are all over the place. Like if you've seen some of my past PSA videos, I got a 10 on a card that was like an 8 at best, and then a 9 on like a really nice card. It's wild. So here's the Mirabels, 4 of those again. So it's nice to be able to compare. And I'm just looking at the top for any issues. I don't see any problems with these. And then I'm just gonna go through and look at the centering. Just from the naked eye, they all look fairly similar, like as far as the centering goes. So then I'm just gonna start looking at whitening in the corners, which this one has a tiny bit down, if I can get it into focus, like nope, you're just gonna be rude, camera. Come on, thanks, there we go. Tiny bit in that little lower corner. This is the hardest part, like you almost need one of those little optical, I'll pop up a picture of what I'm referring, because I don't know what it's called. Magnifying glass, but like a fancy one for looking at cards. I can't really tell with the Mirabels. All of them look slightly off-centered to the left as far as I can tell. So I guess just pick my favorite one, and I think it'll be this one for almost no reason other than it looks slightly different. It's hard to tell on the cameras, but like in my hand, I'm seeing just the slightest possible difference. But there's, again, no whitening in the corners. They all look great. So I'm gonna send this one off. I know it's not, this one's kind of a questionable, like why would you send this off? I wanna own at least like one of each of the set champ promos in a graded slab. I know the Mirabel's value is pretty low, and it's terrible because it was the only one I've actually won, and it's got like the lowest value for a store set champ card. All right, moving on to some bigger heavy hitters. These things right now, oh my gosh. I looked these up. Like this was, you got this off the prize wall at DLCs. I got 2. They're sitting at like $270 a piece on TCG Player right now. I looked up graded ones on eBay, and they were anywhere from, a graded one was anywhere from like $400 to $600 to give you an idea of what grading does to the value of these. All of these I'm keeping for my collection. I have zero intention of selling these unless something horrible happens and like money is of dire need. I hope that doesn't happen. So these Cinderellas, I can tell right now, this one off to the side, it's got some centering issues at the top. So like the bottom has bigger print area. So let's see if I can't show you what I'm talking about. It's so close. But just from looking at it, this one centering on the top is definitely off compared to this other one. So this one I'm gonna vote out based on the centering, and since this one had better centering, I'm just gonna check the corners. All the corners on this look pretty good. Yeah. So I'm gonna submit that Cinderella and then keep the other one just in case something happens and this doesn't come back right. I don't know, it's always, like I said, it's such a gamble, and it really can come down to someone's day, I feel like. Like, I don't know, they're all over the place. A lot of people are very anti-grading. I've got a couple friends who are just not fans of it and have their reasons. I don't know, I enjoy knowing that, like, it's in a slab. I have my box or my super cool case to hold them and keep them safe, and they're fun to show off that way. All right, so on to Rapunzel. These things, again, a prize wall promo at the DLCs. These have skyrocketed up to 214, 220 for an ungraded card. And again, looking, the one on the far left, the centering is up high on the top. So I'm just gonna rule that one out so I don't hyperfixate on what else might be different. And then looking at the corners, here's a great example. The one in the back, you can see that tiny bit of whitening right there. Like, that's enough to throw off a 10, especially if it's in multiple corners. And it looks like it's also got some up in that corner as well. So I think I'm gonna vote this one off the island and stick with this one. The centering looks pretty darn good. I don't see whitening issues in the corner, so that's the one I'm gonna go with. And I tried to limit the amount of cards I was grading because, yeah, it's like $18.99 per card. What you don't realize when you go there is, like, every 5 cards is you're over $100. And if you have a very large collection, it is so easy to get carried away. Yeah, so some of the other fun cards I've been toying back and forth with grading. This was my Mickey Mouse from Chapter 1, Brave Little Tailor foil. It is signed by Ryan Miller, one of the co-creators of Lorcana. It's got a tiny bit of whitening in the corner. Honestly, I kind of don't care if it doesn't get a PSA 10. I'm more excited about just having this, like, autographed. I don't know, it's a great keepsake, and it's also an awesome memory for me from going to Seattle, the DLC, and I think I'm just gonna send that one in, so I'll set that off to the side. Here's one for grading. So all 3 signed by co-creator Ryan Miller at the Seattle DLC. It is the D23 Mickey Playful Sorcerer. These ones were literally in his front pocket. So I expect some whitening in the corners just from rubbing on things. So, like, when I'm saying whitening in the corners, you can kind of see, man, maybe you can't. That's, yeah, there's a little bit of whitening down at the bottom. So those 2 little specks, there's some at the top corner as well. So these are the ones that I knew were gonna be kind of a challenge just because, like, they had bounced around. And so, like, again, I'm looking at the top corner of that one, and there's some whitening and a little bit of chipping. And it's also got some on the bottom. So, like, none of these are perfect contenders. So I just have to find the one with, like, the least obvious, I feel like. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. Plus, the other thing they're going to look at is in some of the previous chapters, the corners, like, look like that versus being nice and smooth and rounded, which I believe I've got a couple of those cards to look at. So this is a tough one for me. I don't know. I'll fast forward this part while I just stare, I guess. Okay, so I decided on this card mainly because the only whitening it had was tiny bit up in that corner, which Mickey, it's blending in with Mickey's face back there. Some of the other ones had whitening in the middle of the bottom and the top. So this is going to be my contender, my PSA 10 contender. And the other reason I wanted to do this is I don't know how GameStop's system will work for, like, autographed cards, submitting that. Like, I don't know. I'm very curious how it's going to work out because I know basically they, like, scan your cards and it just generates barcodes and it gets shipped out. So I don't know who's behind the scenes, like figuring out what category it enters, how to get it graded. So like, I don't know. It'll be wild. I did. I've got a bunch more cards aside from just what's being shown right now that are gonna go. I didn't want this video to go on for days and days and days. So another cool one I wanted for my collection. This is both of the creators of Lorcana, so Steve Warner and Ryan Miller, on a D23 Mickey. And I've seen the D23s, like getting a 10 looks fairly easy. People have literally every single character from the D23 box submitted in perfect order and all got 10s. So the print quality on the D23 cards is pretty flawless. Like centering is great, there's no whitening. So I'm just gonna send this one in again out of the curiosity of how they're gonna categorize a signed autographed card. Even though it's not autographed by the artist of the card, but the co-creators. Again, this was such a great time being at the Seattle DLC and pulling this autograph off. So I'm sending it in, the collection. I've got a couple more D23 cards to show off. So they're both, I mean, they came in just amazing shape. Again, the backs of these, like, I don't know, they've got the greatest centering. I don't see any whitening on these cards in any of the corners, so I'm gonna send these also. They were the two most valuable out of the set. I don't have the rest with me, but I'm going to send them all out so that I can have a set of the D23s all in a PSA 10 for nostalgia, because my D23 story was wild. I happen to know two people that were at Disney when those D23 boxes dropped, and they managed to grab me a few. And it was one of those, like, I couldn't believe that they just happened to be there and are close enough friends that they don't mind standing in a line for me. So here's two Robin Hood sharpshooters. I love this card. I love the artwork, and I actually played this card for quite a while in my deck. Not the enchanted one, but the legendary one. So looking at the backs, centering on both of them looks pretty identical. I don't see whitening in either of the corners. The bottom corners look great. The tops look pretty darn good to me. Maybe that top's got a little bit of whitening. And so I'm gonna take this top one, but it also looked like, is there something on the card? Okay, so there's something super, nope, there's literally like a crumb on that card. That's embarrassing. I pulled one of these and then bought one of these off of someone, and unfortunately the one I want to submit looks like there's like a crumb or something stuck to the back of it. So I'm gonna go over those two later again. But some of the other bigger hits that I want to submit, I don't have anything to compare this to, so I'm hoping for the best. But right out the gate with this Mufasa, wonder if it'll pick it up. There's a tiny bit of whitening in that corner that you can see, but centering looks pretty amazing. I don't see any whitening in any of the back corners. Maybe that top right could be a tiny bit of whitening, but I don't know. The Mufasa is the biggest pull out of the whole set, and I acquired him, so I want to get him submit and graded. I don't know. This is one of my favorite cards, and of course it's literally, like I said, the biggest one in the set. So it makes me so nervous putting these in. Someone's gonna be judging me from their keyboard. You're just smashing them. I don't know. It's in there safely. Down to the last few, and then I'll go into some of the damaged cards. Belle, Strange But Special. She was one of my Chapter 1 chases. I managed to get her in California. This one, again, for my own reference, if it doesn't come back great, I'm always curious. The corners and the centering look pretty amazing. The only thing I can see is a tiny white speck on the top there. Like, there you go. You can see it. I don't know that they're going to be that picky about the cards. Like, again, it's somewhat of just like up to luck and a gamble. I mean, they're going to be looking at them. They're going to find things that are wrong. The worst is when something comes back a 9 and you look at it over and over and over and can't seem to find a single issue with it. That's always tough. So, Belle, And then this one, another autographed, but super cool to meet the artist of this card and have this enchanted card for him to sign. It's in great shape. It's really wild that someone took a marker to an enchanted card and I didn't cry. Corners, again, look pretty good. Centering for chapter 1 is especially good because there are some bad looking cards in chapter 1. Like, nothing's worse than pulling an enchanted and it's heavily shifted to one side and everything's offset, and I don't know, because they're so hard to find in the first place, and then for them to not be perfect is kind of disheartening. And because my curiosity, I have to get this graded. I don't know how many people have sent in Japanese Tinkerbell Giant Fairy Enchanteds, but I'm gonna do it because this, man, that was one of the few times on camera where I just like, I over celebrated and then it just like broke me and I had to recompose because I was so in shock and so excited. That was a wild pull. I still can't get over that, and I'm so excited to add this to the collection because in the original, the English first chapter, this was one enchanted I had never pulled. I pulled like the Genie twice and Zeus twice, which was just wild to me. Ah, Tink, I'm so excited for her. All right, let's get into some of the bad cards. These are some great cards, but unfortunately, I don't think they're worthy of grading. So this one's got some pretty rough centering. Speaking of chapter 1 centering, if you take a look, you can tell that the black space on this side is much larger than that one. This one is definitely shifted way to the left, which it stinks because this foil has just skyrocketed in value. I mean, as far as top and bottom centering, it's up to the top a little bit more and definitely to the left, but like the corners are great. It's one of those, like, I think I might just send it and see what happens. I mean, it's clearly not centered, and I know there's some leeway with centering to like an extent, but I don't know. So that's what I'm talking about with bad centering. But the Baymax, this one hurts. So I really wanted to send this in, but it has some corner issues. You can see right there. It's got like a chip and a nick in the card. So like a double ding. And then if I can catch it just right in the light, if it's doing it, yeah, you can see in the top right there, there's also like chipping. This was one it was a partial trade and I bought while I was at Anaheim, and it was the last one, and I had been trying to get Baymax the whole weekend, so I jumped on it without like really inspecting it. So if you're really chasing after some of these cards to get graded, take your time. When you're buying them online or doing trades in the Facebook group, don't be afraid to ask for close-up photos. I mean, this is your hard-earned money at work. Make it work for you. So I'm not going to submit the Baymax. I'm going to keep a hold of him, though, for my collection, just because I could never pull any of my own out of this set. But he won't be making it to grading. The Mickey that I pulled in Anaheim, I feel like the cards there were, I don't know, like this one's got slight centering issues. You can tell it's, again, with first chapter, it's over to the left a little bit more. The gap that I keep referring to. As far as top and bottom, again, it's top and left on this chapter 1 card as well. And there's going to be a little bit of whitening in that corner. So I'm not going to submit this Mickey. I might, like I said, I'm curious, but right now at 20 bucks a card, I don't really want to send cards that I'm not thoroughly confident in. And I have already sent one of those in and have a 10. So he might just stay in the collection, or if I get really desperate for something I have to have, he might end up on the trading block. Who knows? This is the other card I pulled in Anaheim. I was so pumped to pull this. I always wanted the Ursula that said Storyborn instead of, I believe she was supposed to be Floodborn. So it was kind of a misprint, or it was a misprint. I've always wanted this. So I pulled her in Anaheim. But just looking at her now, her centering is pretty rough too. Instead of being off to the left like chapter 1, she's off to the right more. And you can see the gap. It's noticeable. But again, if that's like the only issue with the card, then I would still send it. Like if it's not terribly noticeable. But this one also has a little bit of whitening in the top and bottom corners. That one seems to be fine, and that one's fine. But like I said, I wanted to own this card. This is gonna be one I'm just gonna send in and kind of see how it goes. So I don't expect much, so it could just be basically throwing $20 away to put her in a slabbed case, which there's sturdier cases that do not cost 20 bucks. But again, those are the cards I'm going to be sending in, so we'll do a quick run through of everything. I think there was one that didn't make it in a sleeve. I'll get her and Cindy taken care of. But so we've got the Ursula. She's going to go for grading. The Japanese Tinkerbell that I recently pulled. The autographed Artful Rogue. Belle, Strange But Special from Chapter 1. Mufasa Legend, or Enchanted, excuse me. The autographed D23. And the autographed D23. And the autographed foil Brave Little Tailor. The Rapunzel promo. The Cinderella Stout-Hearted promo. Mirabel Madrigal promo. Dragonfire. Baymax, Kuzco, and the Ursula. So one thing that I do before I send these in and take them down, I lay them all out at home with a timestamp. It could be just a sticky note with your name on it, the date, and just do that and take a photo of your cards. If something awful were to happen to your cards, it's good to have a copy. Also, I did it, and I'm like, when I've submitted in the past, I'll take a picture of the cards on, like in the past, I've done it at a local gaming store when I submit, and I just take a picture of all the cards on their counter. So there's no question about it. These were the cards I submit. This is your store counter. This is the shape they're in, because I've seen mishaps where a card will come back graded a 5 because it was bent in half when the card wasn't bent in half and was damaged along the way with shipping. So take photos when you drop them off. I'll be sure to ask about like their insurance policies, so I'll make sure that's in there, and I'll ask as many questions as I can. So we'll cut to the GameStop footage. Okie dokie, I am at my local GameStop. I've got, well, these 4 in my hand, but like another 40 cards that I'm going to submit for PSA grading. It sounds like they'll do up to 100 at a time, so I'm going to walk on in and get these cards submit finally, now that they're accepting them. Pretty excited. We'll see how it goes. Yay, and it's slow and steady, so I can go right to the front of the line, which everyone knows how I feel about lines. Hello. I just need to submit some Lorcana cards for PSA. I'm pumped.
You know the rundown on them?
I believe so.
Well, I'll just remind you.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. So there is a minimum of a 45-day turnaround time.
Okay.
We can submit up to 100 cards at a time.
Sweet.
If you're pro, it's free shipping. If not, it is only $4.99.
Okay.
TCG cards are $18.99 per card.
Okay.
And I believe sports cards are about $20.99 per card.
Perfect.
If there is an upgrade fee, you will get contacted by PSA and they will let you know that at the time of pickup, your cards, there will be a charge on that specific card.
Okay.
If you decline, they'll just send it back to us ungraded. Otherwise, you just pay for it at the time of pickup.
Cool. Thank you.
Of course. Just log in here really quick.
And then is there any insurance or anything like that on these?
Yes, so these are, once they're submitted into our system, they're completely insured, and any damage potentially would be completely covered at the highest value.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Sweet. Goodbye, cards. May the PSA gods have mercy on you. Cool.
Sweet.
So there it is. All of the cards are submit to GameStop, headed on to PSA. After I did that, I got a notification and I'm able to log into my GameStop and actually see where things are in the process, like when they arrive at PSA, when they're on their way back. So it's really, really cool. I feel a lot better knowing that they'll take care of you. So like if all the cards went missing, PSA would reimburse me the value of those cards in a PSA 10, which would allow me to just basically go through and buy them all again. I mean, it stinks because some of these I've personally collected. Well, most of these I've personally collected myself and they have a story behind them, especially the autographed ones. You can't really put a price on that. But I'm really excited to see how they come back. We'll do a recap video when they do return and see how my grades are. Hopefully they're a lot better than my high school grades. Anyways, if you're enjoying this stuff, please hit that subscribe button to follow along. I am so close to 1,000 subscribers and I'm getting ready to do that big 1,000 subscriber video where I'm going to rip open a whole lot of chapter 1 and who knows what else. So thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your everything.